Good morning.
Good morning, Molly. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Amber Rose?
I'm doing good. I'm recovering from a bit of a cold, but it seems like anytime I have a presentation like this is exactly when I am getting sick.
Yeah.
It's very timely.
Yeah, I hear you. I think there's been a lot of things. Seems like between allergies and colds and whatnot, things are popping out where they haven't for a couple of years.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like anytime there's a big temperature change, it'll be snowing one day and it feels like spring the next day. My
Yeah.
body is like, why is the weather doing this to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. Who else do we have on the line?
We have Adam on the line, and Adam, I don't believe I have which organization you are here with today.
He might have stepped away for a sec, or he doesn't realize he's on mute.
Well, it looks like he's joining again. Let's see. Hey, Danielle, thanks for joining today.
Good morning.
I'm gonna give myself a little grace period here to eat breakfast, and then I'll jump on camera.
Yeah, please do. Whatever you need, whatever works best for you.
It's an hour early here, so my husband is still asleep, so I can literally hear him snoring down the hall. And then like my dog got right back into bed once I came upstairs with my breakfast, and he's snoring too. I'm like, okay, it's still sleepy time here at Casa Janice Smith, clearly. But for me, up with the sun and doing data jams.
Ooh. Well, then I'm glad for your sake we moved it from the 8 o'clock start time to the 9 o'clock start time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Hopefully you didn't do it just for me.
No, but it did work out well that way. Okay, so I believe we are waiting on two more, so I'll just give it a few minutes for everyone to get settled and hop online. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see that okay?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started then. Welcome everyone to our second data jam. My name is Amber Rose Greeny, and I am a project manager here at the Indy Office of Sustainability. My goal for us today is to learn how you can participate in the benchmarking program, referred to as Thriving Buildings. And then we'll also help you learn how to walk through the process of putting your data into Energy Star Portfolio Manager with the help of our technical experts. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to be working on today. So in the first 2 hours, we're going to cover introductions, benchmarking 101, what is it and why is it important, how this bigger plan connects to our Thrive Indianapolis Sustainability and Resiliency Plan. We'll talk about our benchmarking ordinance and what that requires of community members, how to benchmark and how to comply. And then we'll talk about the Thriving Buildings program. So that will take the first 2 hours. It'll be an interactive session. So I encourage you to come off mute if you have a question, or if you'd like me to slow down, move through the content at a different pace, just let me know. And then the last hour will be a Q&A where you can ask any technical questions to our team, and we can help you work through that. Okay, so introductions for today. On the line here, you have me. I will give you a notice that I'm recovering from a cold, so please bear with me if I sound a bit congested today. We also have Danielle Watkins, who is our HUD-Nut Fellow in our office. And then we have Molly Smith, who is our technical expert from the Center for Energy and Environment. All right, so let's dive right in. An introduction to benchmarking. The core idea behind benchmarking is that you can't manage what you don't measure. So when we benchmark, we are reviewing the building's energy and water performance to ensure that our buildings are performing as anticipated over time and compared relative to their peers. So what benchmarking does is it takes these two data silos. We have meter consumption and we have building characteristics. And a lot of times those have never been merged before. And the reason is that the city has property data like addresses and square footage, but only the utilities have meter data. So when we combine these data sets, they provide us with really valuable metrics that we can use to measure the environmental and economic performance of our buildings. So what we're doing is plugging this information into Energy Star and getting a lot of powerful analytical tools. Some of the most impactful are EUI, or energy use intensity. So this looks at how much energy our buildings are using per square foot. It also gives us our Energy Star score. So this is going to compare our buildings apple to apple. So looking at what year your building was built, what type of building it was built to, and then comparing that to its peers. And then finally, it will also give a greenhouse gas emission measurement. So we've talked a bit about benchmarking, but this transparency piece will come into effect starting in 2026. And that's defined as the public disclosure of building efficiency. So what this does is it makes data transparent. So we're looking at our energy use, our water use, building age, any relevant information. What we're not doing is sharing any kind of proprietary data. So we're not going to identify the building by name because it could potentially lead to shaming for that matter. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into transparency and relate it to something that we might be able to understand in our day-to-day life. So we rely on measurement in many aspects of our life, and we don't even think about it. So measuring calories burned versus calories consumed. Or we wouldn't buy a car if we didn't know how much miles per gallon it got. Or when we go to purchase an appliance, we see this energy guide label that tells us how much money we're likely to be spending per month. That's exactly the same thing we want to do, but on a building level. So we want easy to understand high level metrics that will help us understand the efficiency of a building. And what that's going to do is help us identify which buildings have the greatest opportunity to save energy. And this process is known as benchmarking and transparency. The benefits of benchmarking are quite an expansive list. So it's cost savings. We're saving money to our building owners that might trickle down. It's business friendly and a very low cost of compliance. Energy Star is completely free to use. It's a well-established best practice we've seen in 30 other cities and 2 states with mandates. We're also seeing this becoming the industry standard. So a lot of buildings built to LEED or other sustainability metrics are automatically required to do this benchmarking. And this is also the first step towards the big objective of lowering the impact of existing buildings. One of the best local case studies we have here in Indianapolis is our Indianapolis public school system. So they benchmarked their school branches and were able to get 8 of them Energy Star certified. And through that process, they were able to save about $3 million worth of utility costs. Now I want to connect this to the bigger picture of our office and our Thrive Indianapolis plan. So Thrive is our city's first sustainability and resiliency plan. It has 59 action items in these 2 overarching goals. So goal 1 is to increase community resilience by prioritizing equity in policy, planning, and project implementation. And goal 2 is to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, which the city committed to in 2017. So one of those 59 action items, BE1A, is to develop an energy benchmarking and transparency ordinance for both municipal and commercial buildings. So a lot of cities have built this into their climate action plan, which Thrive did as well, and that helped give us this justification to pursue benchmarking and transparency. And you can see that we have accomplished this action item. So we have 2 big overarching carbon goals for the city, and that's to reach net zero emissions by 2050. And then we also, in the last 2 months, set a science-based target. So this is requiring a 50% reduction from our 2018 numbers by 2030. And this is saying that we set this 2050 goal, we want to make sure that we are making progress towards achieving that goal. When we were in the process of developing this ordinance, GreenLink Analytics conducted a study for us to project some of the potential benefits of benchmarking and transparency. Some of those were an estimated $16 million in annual utility bill savings for building owners, a 27% reduction of our CO2 emissions, as much as 1,400 direct and indirect jobs, particularly high-skilled jobs in energy efficiency, and a $77 million savings in public health due to improved air quality. So now I'm going to dive into the benchmarking ordinance and cover some of the details. As a policy overview, this ordinance was passed by the City County Council in July of 2021. This year, we launched the voluntary phase of the program for buildings to get a head start on compliance, start saving money now. But in 2023, the benchmarking ordinance will be required for all Marion County buildings that are greater than 100,000 square feet. What I'll note here is that the city is leading the way by benchmarking all of our properties that are greater than 50,000 square foot this year. What you'll notice about this timeline here is that implementation of the ordinance is based on building size. So we're wanting to start with our biggest energy consumers. So starting this year, as I mentioned, we are benchmarking all of our municipal buildings greater than 50,000 square feet. Then next year, we're going to move down to 25,000 square feet. And that's when all buildings in Marion County will be required to submit their data if they're greater than 100,000 square feet. Then in 2024, we moved down to buildings greater than 50,000 square feet will have to report their data to the city. And this is the same timeline, but here it also touches on this data transparency piece we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. So what you'll want to note here is that in 2026, scores for all covered properties are going to be published. So up until 2026 is a great opportunity to learn your Energy Star score, your energy use intensity, so that you could start making those improvements on that score before it's published to the public. As for a compliance timeline, the ordinance will require that owners of multifamily and commercial properties that are 50,000 square feet or larger benchmark their energy and water usage annually by this deadline of June 1st. So that's a deadline you'll definitely want to put in your calendar so that you can note for future years. Okay, so now that we're through the technical part of logistics, we are going to dive into how to benchmark and comply with the policy. So this will be an interactive session. So if you have that utility data, you'll want to pull it up, and then we're going to dive right into Portfolio Manager. So this will be a 4-step process. We're going to start here with setting up a property in Portfolio Manager. And again, during this session, feel free to come off mute or ask any questions. You can also drop them in the chat. You'll see at the top of your Teams, there's a little mic button. If you click that, you will come off of mute. I believe there's also a reaction. So if you hover over the guy smiling with the hand, you can raise your hand and we can answer any questions that way. Okay, so step 1, creating an account. So what you want to do is go to portfoliomanager.energystar.gov and create your portfolio manager. So when you go to log in, if you don't already have an account, go ahead and select that create new account button. And when you get there, it'll ask for some basic information like your username and password, which you should of course write down, and then some other basic information, email, contact, things of that nature. Then once you do create that account, it will take you to the Portfolio Manager dashboard. So this is what the portfolio level view will look like. So if you were to have multiple buildings, like for example, the city, we have many different buildings in our portfolio. So here we could see all of the buildings and how they're performing. Here's an example of energy use intensity in this chart. If you just have one building, it will show you only one listed here. Now here in the Summary tab, this is going to tell us metrics like our Energy Star score and general building level data. So when we navigate Portfolio Manager, we see that there's 4 portfolio level tabs. So if you have multiple buildings, you'll be able to see all of those there. Then that's also going to give you the opportunity to share your property. Say if a consultant is working on this for you, you could share your building information with them. Reporting tab is where we are going to live in step 4 for submitting data to the city. And then finally, recognition. So if you have an Energy Star score that is greater than a 75, so your building is performing then 75% better than other buildings of its type, you could get Energy Star certified. And then we have 7 property level tabs. So once we actually click into the building, we can look a little bit more granularly at the building data. So we could see how its energy is performing, how its water is performing, and then your decision on whether you want to use this in other ways, like use it for waste. And you can also set some goals for yourself. So we've used this here in the city. When we implement energy efficiency upgrades, we can actually note this in Portfolio Manager. And from the time we make that update, it will continue tracking how much energy or water we're saving, and then how much cost we're saving as well. So a really good opportunity to show that return on investment. All right, so identifying our properties. Our goal here is to establish the greatest granularity among buildings to lead the most useful benchmarking results. So buildings that share meters will need to benchmark as the same property, but buildings that don't share meters should be benchmarked on separate properties. And I'm going to dive into an example of this to give you a better idea of what this might look like in practice. So let's say we have three buildings. We have a medical building, building A, we have an office, building B, and we have a coffee shop, building C. In this case, you can see their gas, electricity, and water are all metered separately. So in this case, we're going to benchmark all of these properties separately to allow the greatest granularity for comparison. In case 2, what you'll notice is that building A, the medical building, and the coffee shop are going to share a meter also with building B, the office. And in that case, all of 3 of these buildings share a meter. So building A, B, and C must be benchmarked together as one property in Portfolio Manager. And then our third case, you'll see building A and B, our medical building and office, share a water meter. So in this case, building A and B are going to be benchmarking together, but building C is going to be benchmarked separately in Portfolio Manager. Okay, so now let's work through adding a property in Portfolio Manager. Once you make an account and are on this My Portfolio tab, you'll see Add a Property at the top, and you're going to go ahead and select that blue button there. Once you click that, it'll take you to the Setting Up a Property page. So you're going to want to select your property type. And this is one that I would recommend if you're unsure of, go ahead and click Learn More about property types, because this is something that will affect your Energy Star score. So if you're a grocery store, you of course want to be compared to similar grocery stores as opposed to an office building. And then it will also ask you the number of buildings that you're going to be reporting data on. And then you will select that your property's construction status is an existing building. And then you'll click Get Started. All right, so then you'll go ahead and enter your basic property information. What you'll notice here is that those that have the red star next to them are required for you to enter information on. So you'll have your year built, gross floor square area, irrigated area is not required, and then occupancy. And that's something that I want to touch on a little bit deeper. So note on occupancy, it's the percentage of your property's floor area that's occupied and operational. So let's say we have a 10-story building and 9 of those floors are fully occupied and leased, then we're going to select the occupancy at 90%. If you have people working on all floor areas of your building, go ahead and select 100% occupied. You don't have to count empty cubicles for occupancy. Excuse me. So then you're going to check your use details and make sure that they accurately reflect the activity at your property. The value you enter for occupancy could affect your eligibility for Energy Star certification. So that's something you'll want to double check.
Hey, Amber Rose.
Yeah.
Just wanted you to pause for a second. Heather, do you want to come off mute so that I can ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you're saying is very much possible. So Heather's got a couple of different properties across the state, and she kind of wants to centrally manage the benchmarking of those properties. That is totally possible. I guess one thing I wanted to check is, Heather, do you already have a portfolio manager account?
So I set one up for one of the buildings that we manage downtown.
Mhm,
But I didn't know if it's possible. So, and I'm sure you're going to get this question a lot, I guess, going forward. But as a property management provider for multiple ownerships and buildings that would qualify for the program,
mhm,
it would be great for us to be able to see that in like one centralized dashboard as a company, so that I can
mhm.
enter that data in, as we proceed through each month. So I didn't know if that was possible or if that answers your question to me.
Yeah, I think the training will be very useful to you. You wanna use the same portfolio manager account that you have used to set up previous buildings.
Okay.
So, do you have that information and are you logged in?
I'm not, but I will get moving on that now.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want you to
Okay.
think that you couldn't proceed with the training. You absolutely can. Just
Perfect.
use that same, username and password that you've used previously to create a property. And
Okay.
yeah, portfolio manager, it is relatively true to the name in that you can share access to properties, like you can share, edit, and view access if, depending upon what you want to give different members of your staff. It's just that, yeah, most people just kind of go in once a year, benchmark their properties, and then are done with it. And if you want to use it as part of like a continuous improvement, or if
Mhm.
you want to enter your data monthly, that's totally fine. We're just not gonna get into the details of managing the portfolio in this training, but I'll see if I can find like a little one pager on the different types of users and building permissions and stuff for you. I bet they have one someplace.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great question, Heather. Thanks for bringing that up. So depending on which property type that your building fits under, it's going to ask you some different questions. So this is an example, I believe, of an office building. So you'll go ahead and check those that apply. Say, for example, you have a data center, you'll want to make sure you know that because it's such a big energy consumer, and a few other questions. Then it will ask you to enter your property use details. Something that I'll note here that you'll want to take note of is that if there's a blue star next to the box, it has the potential to impact your Energy Star score. So those are the ones that you'll want to go back and double check. So in this case, it's an example of a grocery store. They'd want to make sure that they had those questions that have the blue star next to them correct. For example, the number of walk-in refrigeration or freezer units, the number of workers on main shift. And these questions are going to vary depending on the property type that you select. So you also, in the enter property use details, go ahead and use the year that the building was built unless there's been a major renovation. And if you're unsure and moving through this with us right now, you can also select temporary value. And in that case, it will remind you to come back and correct that. All right, so now for the fun part, finding your unique building identifier. This is step one of our benchmarking process. So what you're going to do is go to the indy.gov benchmarking and transparency website. And on step one, you're going to see a link that says find your universal building ID. And once you click that, it's going to download a spreadsheet. Once it downloads, go ahead and click into that Excel file and it will open on your computer. And then what you're going to do is Control F and search what your building address is. And then once you are able to locate that property address, next to it in the far left column, you see UBID. That's the number that you're looking for. This is your unique building identifier that is custom to your building. Now, one thing I'll note is that this is for properties that are greater than 50,000 square feet. So those that are smaller than 50,000 square feet, you'll need to request a unique building identifier be made for you. So if you go ahead and shoot me an email at amber.greeny2@indy.gov with the address, I'll get that off and make sure that you get a UBID created for you.
Just to pause here, how's everybody doing with setting up their property? And I guess the question is, do you already have a UBID? Do you want to just put yes or no in the chat? This is a unique building identifier, and it's going to be how Amber Rose is going to manage the program going forward. So if you already have one of these um, for your address, then that's great. Just let us know, yes or no, in the chat, maybe. It might be a good indication as to whether Amber Rose, we need to follow up with a couple of folks to get them these.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, last jam, I think we had 2 buildings that needed them made for them. So we finished those and now they have UBIDs.
Okay, great. So we have, I'm just seeing who we have. So we have Leslie, Heather, and Adam. Heather is probably a little behind the others. And then Adam and Leslie, how are you all doing? Do you have UBIDs? Yes or no?
This is Adam. I'm a consulting engineer, and one of our clients is asked with help in inputting the data. So they'll be maintaining the login. It'll be their account. So
Okay, so you're just on for general knowledge, basically.
yes.
Okay, that's great. And then Leslie, how are you doing? Do you have a UBID? Are you proceeding with setting up your property?
Okay. So Leslie's a consulting engineer, also here for general knowledge.
Okay.
Great.
Great. So Heather, we're going at your pace, basically. So
Oh boy.
feel free to ask us questions and whatnot. And I
Okay.
think that would be helpful for everyone.
Yes, I will tell you guys, I'm kind of a hybrid today. So I had an intern assist last year with kind of some of the original pieces. And so I am fairly fresh to this today. So I might be just really behind. So just,
Okay.
just know that I may not be with you yet. I'm still trying to find my login, to be honest.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm taking us since I'm off mute. Just one question. So after this training today, because it's been really good so far, is there an opportunity for me to get the streamed or the actual presentation document to kind of follow as I build everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will go
Okay.
ahead and put this recording on our website, and then I can also send out the slides after the presentation so you can kind of work through it as you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then we also have opportunities for one-on-ones. So if you get stuck and can't get to the next step, you can go on our website and set up a one-on-one with me, and we can work through that whenever you need. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and keep moving here. And if you need me to stop at any point, happy to. All right, so this is the property summary tab. So this is what it will look like. If you're on My Portfolio and then click on this details, that's going to take you to the building information. So once you're there, your UBID is going to be entered on this details tab. So if you go down, you'll see unique identifiers. Go ahead and click edit there, and that will give you the opportunity to enter your unique building identifier. And then once you put that in, it will take you to another page, but a note first on campuses. So if you are someone that is setting up multiple properties, there's absolutely the opportunity to do that. This is an example of more than one building in a campus setting. So you would, when you're setting up your property, when it asks for your property's buildings, you'd click more than one, and then you would put how many buildings that you're going to be benchmarking. Now, if there are multiple buildings on a property, it's not required to benchmark the individual buildings. In fact, if they share meters, you can't benchmark them separately. And you're looking for useful data. The more granularity you have, the better, because that's the best way to identify any spikes you might have, but it's not required. Okay, so step 2, entering water meter data. So I was planning on taking a break here, but because we're only in the first 34 minutes, I'm going to keep chugging along if that's okay with everyone.
Works for me.
Awesome. And just a note here, if you ever need, this is my contact information for my phone, you can email our benchmarking helpline, and then you can always schedule a one-on-one appointment. So don't ever feel like you cannot reach out. All right, so step 2, entering water meter data. So what you're going to need here is to access your water meter data. So you can either do this by having the paper bills, or you could create an account on Citizens Energy Group. A lot of people we work with have these accounts existing, so you just need to find that login information. You could access your water usage from the Citizens Energy Group website by going to the link here, just citizensenergygroup.com/mylogin. You'll sign in and then go to your bill payment and history. And once you do that, you can download individual month's bills, and that's what you'll need to be entering this into the meter data. Okay, so this is what the meter tabs will look like. So this is where we have the My Portfolio, and then we've clicked into an individual building. So you'll see this example is a supermarket. And here our meter tabs are this energy, water, and wasted materials highlighted in this red outline. Now there's 2 ways to enter this data into Portfolio Manager. You can either upload it via manual entry or a spreadsheet upload. So today I'm going to walk you through the manual entry. That's what we've done with our city buildings. But there is a way to do it efficiently. If you have a lot of data and want to put it all in at once, you can do a simple spreadsheet upload as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the water tab. So we've clicked on water in our portfolio. Then we're going to select this add a meter button. So once we do that, we're going to want to make sure we've collected all the bills for the previous year. Sometimes Energy Star will require you to have 13 or 14 months of data, depending on the situation. But this is what your typical Citizens Energy Group bill will look like. And we're going to be using 2 main numbers here. We're going to use the account balance, and then we're also going to use this far right column, CCFs used. So in Portfolio Manager, we've clicked the water, we've clicked add a meter, and then it will take us to the next page, which is selecting all that apply and adding the number of meters. So in this case, we're going to select our indoor water use. If you are also metering your outdoor water usage, this is an opportunity to look more granularly at that. But in this case, we're just going to use the example of 1 indoor water meter. And then we click Get Started. Then this is going to take us to a page to enter more information about our meters. So we're using potable indoor water. The units for water are going to be CCF. And then as for the date meter became active, you can select the date that the building was built, whether it's in use or not, and then you'll click the button Create Meters. If you do have multiple meters, what you can do is click add another entry here, and then add that additional meter. So then this is going to have created the meter for you. And then under the start date, it's going to show a page that says click to add an entry. Then we're going to click on that blue text. And this is where we're going to use our CEG bills. So we have amount due here, and I will say it's optional for you to report the cost data. This isn't something that the city will have the chance to see, but I will say it's been very helpful for us for tracking our cost over time. If there's a month that we have a huge spike, we can see how much more we're paying. So that's been really useful internally. And then we're also using the CCF column. So what this slide does is show you where in your utility bills you're going to put the data into Portfolio Manager. So your start date is going to be where the accounts balance as of date is. Then account balance, again, end date there. And then your usage is going to come from that CCF column. So this is an example where we have a building with 4 different meters. So what we did was add that whole right column up. And then what we did was put the sum into the CCF usage. So you'll have to break out your calculator if you have multiple meters. And then total cost, we're entering from the cost at the bottom of the bill printout. All right, so you're going to follow that same process and add entries until you have a full year of data. So with this voluntary period this year, we're asking for data for the 2021 year. So that means you're going to start entering data from December, a lot of times from December of 2020, and then entering all of the 2021 data. And just to be safe, if you can, put January of 2022 as well, just to avoid any alerts later on. And then once you have entered the 13 months of data, go ahead and click that continue button. Once you do, it will take you to select which meters to include in your metrics. So all of the meters that apply to the building, you're going to select, and then make sure that you click this button here that says these meters account for the total water consumption of the building. And once you've selected that, you can click the Apply Selections button. And that is the process of entering your water data. So we are going to follow the same format in entering our electric meter data. But first I want to stop and see if there's any questions or if anyone needs a break. I'm going to keep moving along then. All right, so for electric, you might have natural gas, or you might have steam, or you might have electricity through AES. So here's an example where we're using our natural gas and steam data. So if you have either natural gas or steam, you're going to go through Citizens Energy Group. So it's the same page that we used before to log in. So you'd go ahead and find your user credentials, log in. If, on the other hand, you have AES for your electricity, sometimes you do have both, one for natural gas, one for electric, you would go to the AES Indiana homepage, create an account, or sign in to view your bill history. Then, similar to how we set up our water meter, we're going to hover over this Energy tab and click on it, and then select the Add a Meter button. Then we're going to enter any additional information about those meters. So, for example, in this instance, we're using electric. A lot of times this is purchased from the grid, but if you do have solar panels or wind turbines on your property, go ahead and select those as well. You can put if you have a natural gas meter, if you're using fuel oil, any of the following, you would select which meters represent your property. Then it's going to take you to the meter setup page. So in this case, we have both natural gas and electric. So for electric, in the units column, you're going to select kilowatt hours for the measurement. For natural gas, on the other hand, we're going to select the therms as the unit measurement. Once you do this and put the date that the meter became active or the date the building was built, you'll select the Create Meter button. So this is an example of a bill from AES, formerly IPL. And this is where the data will go straight from the bill. So we have our start and end date as the billing period. And then for the kilowatt hour usage, we're going to look right across from the energy note under actual. That's the number we're going to use for our kilowatt hours usage. Then for our total cost, we're pulling from the subtotal row. For demand, we're looking at the demand factor in kilowatt hours. So if you follow that arrow down, you look straight over from demand until it's 272. So that's the same number we're going to put in. And then finally, for that demand cost, we're going to use the total cost column. So if you go down under amount, the demand cost, go across from demand, and that's the total under amount. All right, so the other potential you could have is a natural gas meter. So this is a bill from Citizens Energy Group for natural gas. So now you're familiar with where the start and end date is. Usage therms. This building is one where we only have one meter. So we only needed to put that same number it has in that far right column into the usage therms. And then total cost is right across from account balance. All right, so now we've added our meter entries and we're going to fill in the data. You'll click Save Bills. And I will say tracking demand and demand cost can really help you understand what portion of your bill is associated with demand and when this demand occurs so that you can look for ways to reduce your demand and lower your utility bill. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but did want to show that they have a how-to guide. So this guide here with the link on the right, you can learn how to enter your electric demand and demand cost into Portfolio Manager, and you can actually pull demand metrics into custom reports. So really powerful analytic tool. And then a note here, there is an opportunity to use a spreadsheet and upload or just copy and paste it. So this is where you would use that spreadsheet upload if you didn't want to do the manual entry. All right, so now you would add your energy consumption information. You can expand the meters by clicking the arrow below to show details of the meter itself. Here we're going to click continue. And then for these energy meters, for the energy meter page, we're going to select all of the meters that account for the total consumption of the building. And then very important that you select these meters account for the total energy consumption of the single building. And then click apply selections to make sure that you include all meters in the total calculation. So once you click that apply selection, it's going to take you to the energy meter tab. And this is where meters can be added and displayed. So here you saw we created an electric meter, a natural gas meter, and a fuel oil meter. And now we can see all of those in the energy meter tab. And you know that you've created these because you get a notification at the top of the screen in a green box that congratulates you for creating the meter. And this is where you can also add or update your bills. So when you get your new monthly bills, say you got your monthly electric bill from AES, you could click into that electric grid meter and then upload the next month of data. So this is what the page will look like once you've entered numerous months of data. So you can see your cost, demand cost, usage, and the date it was last updated. All right, so now we have moved through steps 1 through 3, and we are on data submission. Since we have a pretty small group, we're moving through this quickly. I'm happy to take a break if anyone would like, but can also just keep moving through if we're feeling good with the content and information. What was the green power box?
I mean, you can designate if you have some of your electricity that's coming from, say solar panels on the roof, et cetera. You can separate that out when you set up your meters.
Mhm.
It's probably a couple slides back.
It was the slide that you showed next to the last one there that had showed all the data over time. There you go. So there was like an estimation box and a green power box.
Right.
Okay. Very
So
good.
yeah, if the if you're doing individual entries and you have data from a solar panel on your roof or something like that, you can enter that separately.
Okay. Very good.
And also when you set up the meters, you can set up different meters for different sources of electricity if you have that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Heather. And Heather, do you want to go ahead and take a 5-minute break? How are you feeling on content?
I'm good if everyone else is. No problem here.
Okay. We'll keep chugging along. All right, so step 4 is our data submission and final step. So first, you're going to want to double check that your UBID is on that details tab. So this is kind of a refresher. Where you'll enter your UBID is on the details tab under unique identifiers, edit and add it. If you don't have a UBID, don't worry, we can make those for you. So the process for submitting the data, you're going to go to our benchmarking and transparency indy.gov website, and that's going to show you a 5-step process, which is basically this presentation, but very, very much condensed. And on step 5, you'll click report your benchmarking data to the city, and that's that link under step 2. And once you click it, it will either take you to one of 2 pages. If you're not yet logged into your portfolio manager account, it will ask you to do so and go ahead and log in. If you are already logged into your account, before you click step 5, it will take you to this data request page. So what that will show is this little green box that pops up at the top that says complete this form to respond to the data request, Indianapolis voluntary benchmarking. And it will talk a little bit about the data request when it's due. We'll talk about the compliance timeline. And then if it does not take you to that page, or if you end up losing that page, don't worry. This lives in our reporting tab. So right next to the sharing box. So once you click that reporting tab, you'll see this data request from others towards the bottom. In that data request, Indianapolis voluntary benchmarking is what you're going to want to look at. So exactly where we were just mentioning, you will click the drop down action, I want to send response. And once you click that, it's going to have you select who you're submitting it on behalf of. So if you're submitting it for your own building, you would click myself. If you're a consultant submitting it for someone else, you would select someone else. And then the time frame will automatically be set for you. So we're using 2021 data. So when you click on it, it will say 2021 single year. And then you'll select the number of properties that you want to submit. Select those individual properties and then click Generate Response Preview. Then what it will do is ask you to confirm who you want to send a confirmation email to. So if you're a consultant and you want to make sure that your client sees that you have submitted this data, you'll want to go ahead and enter them in as an additional email. Then you can also select which format you would like your data in for the email attachment. And then finally, in step 6, you're going to check this box that you certify you're releasing data about your properties on or behalf of someone else. Then your e-sign will be your username and password. And then send data is that final step. Now, if you have data errors, this red box will come up that looks kind of scary. Don't be intimidated. It usually does not take very long to review the errors. So this could be, for example, you have a missing month of meter data, or I'm trying to think of one of the other errors that we have ran into. If you have a temporary value listed, it will just ask you to go back and fix that. But then it will give you this notification that a preview for your response has been generated. And then if it does not have an error, it will show you that you have successfully submitted. One last tool here I wanted to show, because it is quite a powerful tool, is that in this reporting tab, you can actually choose from preset chart and graph options. So if you want to look at your weather normalized source EUI, you can click on this tile here, and that will download a report for you and show you how your building has been performing. You can also do it in the Energy Star report button. You can generate templates and reports if you want to look specifically at your waste or water. You can download that there. And then you can also download performance documents if you want to look at your statement of energy performance. It's a really great way to have some hard data to look at, to present to your team if they're looking at wanting to make efficiency upgrades, comparing your building to other similar properties. Really valuable tool and totally free to use. Right. So in the sake of time, the last section is only a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and keep moving on, and then we'll go into our Q&A. Okay, so a little bit about Thriving Buildings. So Thriving Buildings is the program that came out of the Benchmarking and Transparency Ordinance. And what it is the opportunity to have organizations benchmark their energy and water data and identify ways to save money on utility costs while improving air quality for our Indianapolis residents. So this is our voluntary year of benchmarking participants. We have a plethora of benefits that you get from participating this year. You have the opportunity to get ahead of the compliance schedule. So people participating now have already walked through the process, and when it becomes compulsory next year, they will already know how this works. Also have the opportunity to work one-on-one with me and our technical experts on benchmarking help. You have access to our data jams. You also get public recognition. So we're going to do a big public recognition celebration next year. So if you participate, your organization will be acknowledged and awarded for being in our inaugural cohort of benchmarking participants. All that we're asking to participate is that you share your data with the city this year. So that is going through the 4 steps that we discussed in this data jam. And then what we'll have you do is if you go to our indy.gov benchmarking website and click this Get Started button, it will take you to our pledge. So this is our Thriving Buildings pledge. Basically what it's saying is that you agree to share your energy and water data with the city this year. And that if you have a score above a 75, which means that you'd be Energy Star certified, we want to celebrate you. So we want to publicly acknowledge the good work that you're doing. And then you would fill out this information, pretty basic. Who's the contact? What's the square footage? Are you okay with us using your logo? And then you would submit to us. I will say that this is a great opportunity to commit to this month. April is Earth Month, so if your organization is looking to make a commitment and show their dedication to the environment and sustainability, this is a great way to do it. This is our inaugural cohort so far. We've had great participation from the faith-based community. We also have Newfields, the airport, Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, the public libraries, Finish Line, Lucas Oil and the Convention Center, Pepper Construction, Guidon, Building Authority, Restaurant Depot, really fantastic organizations that will be reaping the benefits of benchmarking. So we deliver this program in collaboration with Citizens Energy Group and AES, our utilities. Also, Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light, who's doing fantastic work with the faith-based community. USGBC's Indiana chapter has been really helping us promote this program, and the Center for Energy Environment, Molly's organization, has been really, really instrumental in helping us carry out this program. So with that, here is my contact information if you want to shoot me an email if you have any questions. You can also follow us at Sustain Indy on all of the media platforms to stay up to date with what our office is doing. And with that, I want to move into our interactive Q&A session. So if you have any questions or want to dive into anything specific, this is the time to do it. With that, I thank you guys all for being here today and look forward to working with you on the Thriving Buildings program.
I was curious about the spreadsheet entry.
Mhm.
Just could we take a look at that?
Yeah, maybe this is a good time to kind of move into a live demo.
And you didn't go over it, but I'm assuming city chilled water is kind of the same entry method. It'll just be another meter.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so this is our portfolio manager account. If I wanted to do a spreadsheet upload for, let's say, animal control, I would click in there, say it's energy, click electric grid meter. Actually, it will show you here, there's 5 ways to enter your bill data. So you can use a simple spreadsheet or a complex spreadsheet. Use the simple if it's 1 meter, but if there are multiple meters and multiple properties, you want to click the complex spreadsheet. And then once you click on that, it will show you how to use it. So from my experience with it, it's pretty self-explanatory in that you have a meter, you would put what meter it is, what date, and then your usage, very similar to the layout of the meters here, just in the spreadsheet format.
So if you had electricity, water, steam, and chilled water, could you do 4 simple spreadsheets, 1 for each meter, or 1 complex that includes all meters? Is it 2 different ways to get there?
Yeah, from my experience with it, you would do the 4 spreadsheets. Molly, you might have more experience with the complex.
No, I have tried the complex spreadsheet for uploading a portfolio of buildings once, but I haven't used it very much. I would say there's a I'm sure that it's exactly that. If you use the complex spreadsheet, you get the opportunity to upload multiple meters at once. And I'm sure I can actually go find a how-to video on it, I'm sure, and drop it into the chat.
Yeah, and for the simple spreadsheet, I'm going to pull it up right now because I have it downloaded. So this is what it would look like if you downloaded it. You'd put the start and end date, the usage, cost is optional, and then demand and demand cost. And then you would use this and upload it into, you probably can't see my portfolio manager account right now, but where you are in the meter itself, you can select upload data in bulk for this meter. Here we go. So on that meter tab, you'd select the choose file and then upload your meter consumption, open, and then upload. And then it would auto-populate.
Amber Rose, you can probably stop your recording.